You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our Total Wellness Tuesday, I'm looking forward to giving you one tip, one main way to help prevent Alzheimer's disease, and also to pass on to those people who might be worried that they too may one day get Alzheimer's like a grandparent may have had or a parent. So we do know so many things that do cause Alzheimer's. So there's kind of three major things. One is with the neurology of the brain itself and how there can be an actual entanglement of those specific nerve synapses. That's one. The second one is also from what's called brain atrophy, kind of shrinking of those brain cells themselves. And the third one is plaque, basically, the plaque that builds and grows on the brain itself. Now, a lot of these things can be explained through inflammation and other processes of the body. Some of it can be explained through free radical damage, like heavy metals and aluminum that can actually move into the brain through that blood-brain barrier. And then again, there's the genetic susceptibility to that inflammation. So that's what I always say is if you can do the genetic test that we offer, that we talk about a lot, it's an amazing test. You only have to do it once and you get 100 pages on yourself. And if you have an allele, it's called a 2, 3, or 4 allele, and you have a 4, even if it's just a 3, 4, it makes you more susceptible to inflammation and what that can do to the body, as well as a genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's, but that doesn't mean that you're ever going to get it. That's not how it works. The other thing is if you have a 4, 4, so a double 4 allele, then you want to be extra cautious. And again, it doesn't mean that you're going to get Alzheimer's, but it does mean that you need to just be that much more cognizant of all the different things in your life and what you're putting into your body. But there's an even greater, so again, it's all about diet and lifestyle. And we know that 95% of all cancer, and this includes pretty much all disease, is related to diet and lifestyle. Now, lifestyle can include exercise and stress and all of those things, but meaning that they're not genetic-based diseases, okay? So you can be genetically predisposed, but it never means that you have to get whatever that disease is that you're worried about. So here's the interesting thing is that they're coming up with, I love all these new names, right? So now we have what's called a type 3 diabetes. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but essentially this name was made up because about 80% of everyone that has Alzheimer's also has insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. Now, what does that mean? Well, it basically means that they don't have type 1 diabetes where the body's not producing insulin. Their body's producing insulin, but the cells are not allowing the sugar to be transported through that cell membrane and used, right? So let's make that even a little bit simpler. All right, so what happens eventually with type 2 diabetes is that you're going to wake up in the morning and you do your fasting glucose level. Again, you can test this for yourself. You don't need to go to your doctors to do this. You can buy a simple glucometer. I'll link it up in the show notes today. So again, just go to stephencabral.com/podcast and you will find today's show notes page. And today is what? Episode 346. So what you'll do is you can do this. You can just literally poke your finger just with one of those little lancets, put a drop of blood on this little card, and it tells you first thing in the morning, is your blood sugar between 75 and 95 milligrams per deciliter. Now, if it's over 100, you're moving towards higher blood sugar, right? You're not type 2 diabetic, but if your blood sugar when you wake up in the morning is over 126 milligrams per deciliter on more than one occasion, meaning like let's say you do this every day for a week, well then pretty much you're in type 2 diabetes. Now that can be turned around. It can be, you are not destined to a life of type 2 diabetes. But what we have to do is we obviously have to first and foremost work on nutrition and second, work on your exercise to help draw some of that sugar in to actually use the sugar. So why is this happening? Well, again, we're looking at type 2 diabetes. We're looking at being inflammation-based. We're also looking at how that affects the brain. So here's the thing not a lot of people know about or think about is that your brain is a major utilizer of glucose. That means sugar. So what happens is your brain, just like your body, needs glucose to actually get that into the cells. Now, it's a little different. So when your sugar's floating around in your blood, and we all need sugar in our blood, there's no doubt about that, right? We need that, but we only need it up to a certain standpoint. So then insulin, what it does is almost think of it as like a key that unlocks the cell's doors to allow that glucose to then go in all of your cells. That's really important. But people become insulin resistant because of many different things. One of the major things is that they're eating too much fried food or processed food. Processed food will increase blood sugar levels. Fried food or fried oils will actually create too many rancid fats that will actually block up those cell membranes, right? So it will create a environment that is more what's called anaerobic, and it will not allow as much oxygen or glucose in. That's a problem, a serious, serious problem. So we have to look at that, of course. So what's an easy way? Well, increasing more produce, more vegetables in your diet, right? That's always called the cure-all because it is. You need to get more good quality, not cooked in oil, vegetables in your diet. And a smoothie absolutely does help as well. A lot of people say a smoothie is not good for diabetes. And that's correct if you're using fruit juice, right? And if you're using a lot of like those exotic fruits. But how I talk about it is you're using fruits, especially if you have blood sugar issues, with more skin on them, berries, right? So when you look at that, why are they so high in antioxidants? Because there's not a lot of fructose and they're very high in skin, and skin is where the antioxidants are. So anyway, you can still use a cup for most people of those blueberries in your smoothie in the morning. And you could probably do flax seeds and other, good fiber in there as well. Now, of course, in the beginning, I can't give you everything all at once, right? But in the beginning, a lot of times we're just cutting out the fruit for about 21 days. We're just kind of leveling back out those blood sugar levels, just doing more vegetables, and then we're gradually adding it back in. The truth is this, is that your cells need to turn over. They're a big mess right now. If you're dealing with blood sugar issues, that's the technical term. They're a big mess, and they need to turn over, and they're going to turn over every 90 to 120 days. So once we get those new crop of red blood cells in there, all those new cells, we're going to be doing much better. So getting back on track with your brain, here's the thing. Although insulin isn't used in the same exact way in the brain because it doesn't need to be used to transport into the cells, it does need to be used, convert that glucose to actually usable nutrients in the brain itself. So this is really important. And what I'm trying to get at is this, is that your body is affected pretty much in the same way as your brain, and your brain pretty much affected in the same way as your body. You have to look at maintaining and regulating healthy blood sugar levels. That's why, I don't necessarily believe that grazing all throughout the day is the best thing for you, because you need to drop those blood sugar levels, which means pretty much every 3 to 4 hours is the maximum that you'll want to eat between meals. There are always exceptions, no doubt about it. There's always an exception, but for the majority of people who are looking to digest their food, the blood sugar goes up and then it should come back down as well. So what can we do? What are some tips to help prevent this type 2 diabetes so that you also don't get Alzheimer's along with it, right? Well, we need to make sure that we're including more whole foods in our diet, right? That means foods that you can see in nature. So you can see a sweet potato in nature, right? So if you cut that sweet potato up and you put a little bit of, maybe use a little bit of cinnamon on it, a little bit of nutmeg, that's great for blood sugar as well. Maybe add a little bit of olive oil to it, or a little bit of ghee, or if you want some grass-fed butter, just a little bit, that's totally fine, right? All those things seen in nature. But when you turn it into a French fry and you deep fry it, well, that's a different story. But you can absolutely slice up those sweet potatoes and then bake them. And you don't have to bake them with oil. You can add a little bit afterwards with a little bit of sea salt. That's incredible, right? My big thing is this. Whatever you're consuming right now for liquid, besides a smoothie, because that is actually whole food that's blended, you want to make sure that it is basically water or herbal tea. Now, you can still do a black coffee a day if that's something that you choose. Try to do organic, but that will cut down on all of these fake sweeteners and things. That will cut down on all these red dyes and blue dyes and yellow dyes that are in all of your liquids. Just keep it simple. Ginger tea, chamomile tea, tulsi tea. Just try to keep it herbal based if you can. And we're going to cut out a lot of those artificial things, and absolutely no juice. There's absolutely never a need for fruit juice ever. You can blend your fruit and make it into a smoothie if you want, and you can do vegetable-based juice. And if you need something a little sweeter for your juice, carrot juice, that works great, or beet, that will work well as well. Okay, what else can we talk about as well? Well, one thing that is typically healthy, but is overdone because people aren't exercising and moving enough is dried fruit. You really have to be careful with dried fruit because, here's the thing, like apricots is a really popular dried fruit, right? Delicious, very, very sweet. Well, a half a cup of apricots. So think about that. That's not that much, right? A half a cup, very, very small. That's equal to about 17 fresh apricots. Now, when would you ever eat 17 apricots? You wouldn't, but it's so easy to eat a half a cup of dried fruit. So just be careful with that one. That's all I'm saying. And then again, limit the dairy, limit all the processed foods, all of those things. If you want to do a little bit of goat cheese every now and again, okay, that's your prerogative. No problem with that. A raw goat cheese, that might be acceptable. And my last thing is I have to add it in, is you must do at least your 10,000 steps per day. Walk, get the body moving, don't sit as much. And then if you can, again, any type of exercise in general will help pull that sugar, start to get it back out of your bloodstream. You're going to use that as a fuel source. So do that. I'm telling you, you can turn your life around. Again, I always say this, 12 to 16 weeks. You can see a miraculous turnaround. So here's the thing. You don't need to worry about Alzheimer's. You don't need to worry about all these dementia-based things if you're taking care of all of these things now, because they don't happen overnight. By the time you're starting to get symptoms, typically it's been going on for decades. They're finding the issues now actually start in the 20s. That's a problem. And I would even say before that, right? Because what we eat as kids does matter. So, but all of this can be changed. That's the beautiful thing about natural medicine and our bodies, right? Our natural medicine is just getting our body to heal, right? We're not doing anything special from a conventional medicine standpoint. We're saying we have, in functional medicine, we have the best labs in the world. We can test your hemoglobin A1C. We can test your fasting glucose. We can test fasting insulin. We can look at triglycerides. So we can look at all the things that predispose you to all this inflammation and blood sugar-based issues. But a lot of this you can do right at home or run your own blood work. Again, just on the StephenCabral.com/store, all of these things are available to you. We don't even sell the blood work to you. We point you to a lab where you can buy the kit and then take it to any walk-in clinic and have your own blood work done if you want. You honestly can take your own health back into your own hands without having to do so much with your MD, PCP, who doesn't really always look at, now not everyone, again, I'm not stereotyping, not everyone, but most don't. They don't even have the time. So meaning I want you to take care of yourself before you get into a disease state where then you'd have to go to your MD, PCP, naturopath, whoever it might be, right? So let's take care of this now so that it never becomes an issue, so that we all live a long, healthy, but great quality of life as well. So if this episode, again, can help anyone you know who's worried about Alzheimer's, who's worried about any type of brain-based diseases, pass it along. Look at inflammation, look at blood sugar, look at how our bodies function naturally. I'm telling you, you get it back into balance, amazing, miraculous things happen. Thank you everyone for tuning in to another Cabral Concept. I look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow on our Weight Loss Wednesday show. Take care.
Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rainbarrel.